Welcome back, everybody. Yes, 100% Texan, and I'll tell you, this gentleman coming up right now is certainly that. Dr. Justin Anderson, good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me in. Thanks for flying the ship today.
Hey, man, we're going to fly it just the best we can and let you. You're going to do the flying. I'm just going to do the co-piloting. How's that sound? But
That sounds good.
We'll get her done. Always good to have you on. Like I was telling you, I get to listen to the show most of the time, sitting back in my office, getting ready and hear bits and pieces. So I'm excited to be sitting in and, as you say, kind of running the ship today. So what are we going to talk about today, Doctor? And
Today I'm going to focus on type 2 diabetes, how to reverse type 2 diabetes with some changes in your diet. Because type 2 diabetes is a condition where you have elevated blood sugar. And so we're going to talk about how to get those blood sugars down, at the same time requiring less medications, fewer medications, by changing your diet.
Just by changing your diet?
Just by changing your diet. No expensive. Well, one of the great things is I teach people how to eat a diet that's very low in carbohydrates, and one of the great things is I don't sell pills or supplements or injections or expensive meals. You can save your money and spend your money at the grocery store. The program I do is called Metabolic Coaching, and you can find out more about it at metaboliccoaching.net. It's a .net, not a .com. Metaboliccoaching.net, or you can call me directly on a little cell phone I carry around, 448-0322.
Why don't you give that number one more time?
It's 448-0322 to contact me about the metabolic coaching program.
Okay.
And one of the great things that I've experienced in teaching people a very low carbohydrate diet for type 2 diabetes is that if people have had diabetes for a year or less, that's what I call an early diabetic. If you've had diabetes for a year or less, then it's rather straightforward and rather easy to usually get off of your medications, sometimes within a matter of just a month or two, by changing your diet. Now, when people think about type 2 diabetes, they think high blood sugar. Type 2 diabetes is a condition where people have high blood sugar. And normal blood sugar is going to be, actually Dr. Bernstein, Richard K. Bernstein, he defines normal blood sugar as 80 to 85. And that's because at a blood sugar of 80 to 85, you don't get the complications or the problems from diabetes. And so, but people with type 2 diabetes, they have elevated blood sugar, and so when they think about diet, they have high blood sugar, so they know that they need to avoid sugar. And that's pretty common sense. But the part that a lot of type 2 diabetics don't know is that sugar, your body turns carbohydrates, which is bread, pasta, potatoes, wheat, oatmeal. Your body turns all of those things into blood sugar. And so controlling your blood sugars with type 2 diabetes is not just about avoiding table sugar, the white stuff, the white granulated stuff, but controlling your blood sugar is about avoiding all of the kind of processed and refined carbohydrates that raise blood sugar. And if you have type 2 diabetes, I will give you I'll start off with a story. One of the ways that I got involved with diet at all was that my wife, when she was pregnant, she failed her oral glucose tolerance test. And to fail that test means what they do is they give you a sugar drink, and then they test your sugar an hour later. And sometimes they can do a longer test where they test it 1 hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours later. And so she drinks this sugar drink and failed her test. Now, this is the public service announcement part. The public service announcement is that if you're a woman who's pregnant and you're already on a very low carbohydrate diet, if you're on a very low carbohydrate diet and you drink that sugar drink for the glucose tolerance test, you'll actually fail the test. And the reason you fail the test is because your body is not used to processing 50 grams of pure glucose at one time. And so in order for a woman to properly prepare for an oral glucose tolerance test, she needs to be sure that she has 150 grams of carbohydrate or more for 3 days before she takes the test. So if you're already a low carber, you have to take extra sugar before you take the test, otherwise you'll fail the test. So my wife, she failed her oral glucose tolerance test, and when a pregnant woman fails
Your
that
wife
test,
failed it.
she was pregnant, and pregnant women, they give them this test to see if they're diabetic, and so she failed the test. And they tell a pregnant woman they don't start her on medications. Instead of starting them on medications, they say watch your diet, check your blood sugar, and just follow your sugars. And so what we found out is that if she ate something like a heart-healthy whole grain bran muffin, or if she ate heart-healthy oatmeal, it would skyrocket her blood sugar and put her blood sugar through the roof. But if she ate something that was supposedly not healthy, like a 3-egg omelet with bacon, sausage, and cheese and onions on it, her blood sugar stayed dead normal. And I remember thinking, well, why do we recommend diabetics, people with high blood sugar, why do we recommend that they eat heart-healthy oatmeal and whole grain bread and bran muffins, all of these things, when those are what make their sugar high? So that's one of the first things that got me interested in diet, was my experience with her. And so something that a diabetic can do is you can just test this on your own. If you have type 2 diabetes, then at home you have a glucose monitor. So go ahead and check your sugar, and then one morning eat a bowl of oatmeal that's supposed to be really healthy for you, and check your sugar an hour after you eat the oatmeal. Or eat something else. Eat whole grain or whole wheat toast and check your sugar an hour later. So those are carbohydrates, and what you'll find is that your sugar doubles within an hour of eating those foods. But if you eat something like that's supposedly not healthy for a diabetic, like if you eat 3 eggs with bacon or 3 eggs with sausage, and check your sugar an hour after that, you'll find that your sugar has not doubled. You'll find your sugar is the same. And what some diabetics find is that their sugar is actually down some after they eat that sort of meal. And so for a type 2 diabetic, just be aware that it's the carbohydrates in the diet that are making your blood sugars out of control. And the way that I treat clients in my program is I put people on a very low carbohydrate diet.
Right.
And so if you're a type 2 diabetic, you start on a very low carbohydrate diet, what you'll find, what you'll find is that your blood sugars, they'll start, usually the first blood sugar of the day, that's called fasting blood sugar, is the lowest blood sugar a diabetic will have all day, because they're eating carbohydrates all throughout the day. That's bread, pasta, corn chips, wheat, oatmeal, all those sort of things. They have that at every meal, so the sugar's high all the rest of the day. But what my clients find is their first blood sugar of the day is usually their highest. And when they eat, the sugars go down and they stay lower the rest of the day. And that's how you control your blood sugars with type 2 diabetes. Do you have diabetes there?
No, thank goodness. No, I do not have diabetes. That's one, knock on wood so far, doctor, that's one of the few things I do not have.
And what some people worry about, they say, well, look, if I'm eating eggs, I know eggs have cholesterol and fat, so isn't that going to give me a heart attack? Because people with type 2 diabetes are at higher risk for heart disease. And the best thing that a diabetic can do to reduce their chance of heart disease is to reduce their blood sugar. The American Diabetes Association published in 2012, and they said that for every 1 point reduction in hemoglobin A1C, that reduces cardiovascular risk by 45%. So that's just, hemoglobin A1C is your 3-month average of blood sugars. And if you reduce it by 1 point, you decrease your cardiac risk by 45%. You reduce it by another point, then that's another 45%. Another point, that's another 45%. So it's not going to be the cholesterol or the fat that really damages the arteries in someone with type 2 diabetes. It's the high blood sugars. The high blood sugars, they stick to the artery walls. They make them to where they don't contract and flex normally. They stick to the blood cells, and it's called glycosylation, and it damages the high blood sugars and diabetes, they damage your cholesterol to make your cholesterol bad. They damage your arteries. They damage your eyes. I'm an ophthalmologist, and people get diabetic retinopathy. So it damages the eyes. It damages the kidneys. It goes on through your whole body, damages the heart. And so by lowering your blood sugar, that's the number one thing a diabetic can do to help improve their risk of heart disease.
Man, that's just unbelievable. It really is. How many people realize that? You asked me if I had diabetes. No, I don't. I have heart. Yes, I've had double bypass and I've had stents, and and so, but so far no diabetes. I guess I'm blessed on that respect.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you this, that if you do have type 2 diabetes out there, you can do something like take the metabolic coaching program to help you learn to reduce your medications, get off of some of your medications, and get your blood sugar and hemoglobin A1C better. Or there's an excellent book. It's written by Richard K. Bernstein, MD. He's a medical doctor. And the book is called Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution. And it's like the Bible for how to control diabetes with a very low carbohydrate diet and medications if necessary. And he also goes through some supplements that people can take and those sort of things. But it all starts, the basis of the diet is, the basis of his whole program is diet. It's a very low carbohydrate diet. Another book that I think that was published in 2011, another book that's excellent but is not quite as detailed is Dr. Atkins' Diabetes Revolution in 2004. That was back when Dr. Atkins was alive. It's co-written by Jackie Eberstein, who was Dr. Atkins' nurse for a long time. And if you read Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution and Dr. Atkins' Diabetes Revolution, you would know as much or more about why you have diabetes, how to control your blood sugar, why you got it, how to reverse it, than your physician does. One of the interesting things with type 2 diabetes is that the focus in treatment of type 2 diabetes from a medical perspective is controlling the blood sugar, getting the blood sugar down. But people who have type 2 diabetes, they're insulin resistant. And insulin resistance means that their body produces, people think if they have type 2 diabetes, they don't make enough insulin. But the truth is, a type 2 diabetic makes 3 times as much insulin as someone who is a normal weight, non-diabetic. So they're making 3 times as much insulin, and insulin should control the blood sugar, but it doesn't.
It doesn't. Huh.
And the reason it doesn't is because they're insulin resistant. Their body resists the effects of insulin, even though their body is pumping out tons of insulin trying to get the sugar down. So when they're insulin resistant, well, anyway, back to the focus in medicine is controlling the blood sugar. And in order to get the blood sugar down, some of the medications that are used actually worsen insulin resistance. And by worsening the insulin resistance, they worsen diabetes. Some of them, if you're a type 2 diabetic and you're on a medication like glyburide or glipizide, those type of medications, they help improve the blood sugar by causing the pancreas to pump out more insulin. And pumping out more insulin worsens your insulin resistance. Those medications can also burn out the pancreas over time because the pancreas is being so overworked. And so the best thing to do for a type 2 diabetic is to control your blood sugar, but not control it by increasing the amount of insulin your pancreas makes. Instead, do it by decreasing the amount of carbohydrates in the diet.
Is there a special blood test, blood work that has to be done to see this? Or when you go to the doctor and say you have lab work done, is this detected in just an ordinary, say, blood workup?
Yes, it'll be detected in ordinary blood workup because your doctor usually, if you're coming in for an annual physical or once a year, your doctor will check a hemoglobin A1C. Okay. And that's a screening test. It's your 30-day blood sugar average to see if it's high. And the second thing they usually check is they'll tell you not to eat when you go in to get your blood work done because they check your fasting glucose. And glucose is your blood sugar. So Diabetes can be diagnosed either on fasting blood sugar or elevated hemoglobin A1C.
I've often wondered that. Get this printout, and half of us can't read it after, when it's sent to you.
And that's one of the things that I do for my clients is I'll have them just send me their lab work, and they'll send me their current lab work and their previous lab work, and we look at everything and say what's better, worse, or the same. And what typically happens is the hemoglobin A1C goes down, which is a good thing.
Right.
The fasting blood sugar goes down, which is a good thing. The HDL cholesterol, HDL is what's called good cholesterol. The HDL cholesterol goes up, which is a good thing.
Good.
The triglycerides drop dramatically, which is a good thing. And there are some doctors who argue that the number one risk factor for a heart attack is going to be the triglyceride to HDL ratio. Having too high triglycerides and too low HDL. And some people think, well, it's the total cholesterol to HDL ratio. Total cholesterol to HDL. And those ratios, they both improve. And that's a good thing. And the LDL itself, the LDL number, 80% of the time it goes down or it stays the same. But the type of LDL switches from the small, dense kind of LDL, which is associated with heart attacks. It switches from that to the large, fluffy kind of LDL, which is not associated with heart attacks. Now, most people think LDL, that's bad cholesterol. LDL is my bad cholesterol. Well, I've got news for you. 50% of all people who go to the emergency room with a heart attack, they have normal LDL cholesterol. So 50% of people in the ER with a heart attack have normal LDL. Well, how on earth can that be if LDL is bad?
Bad, yeah.
That's because in reality, there's two types of LDL. There's a small, dense kind of LDL. It's the bad kind of bad cholesterol. And then there's a large, fluffy kind of LDL, which is not associated with heart attacks. And it's the good kind of bad cholesterol.
The good kind of bad cholesterol.
The good kind of bad cholesterol. Now, your normal lab test that your physician orders at the once a year to check your cholesterol won't tell you what kind of LDL you have.
Oh, okay.
If you want to know for sure what kind of LDL cholesterol you have, then you can order a special test. It's called VAP, Vertical Auto Profile, or Cardio IQ by Quest Diagnostics. And a lot of physicians here in town, they're real familiar with Quest Diagnostics. They're a national laboratory.
Right.
You can get something like the Berkeley Heart Panel or the Lipo Profile by Liposcience. And so all of those will tell you what kind of LDL you have. But I'll give you a hint as to what kind of LDL you have. If you have very high HDL, which is your high good cholesterol, and you have very low triglycerides, then the type of LDL you have, statistically, without actually testing it, the type of LDL you have should be the large, fluffy kind, which is not associated with heart attacks.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. And just focusing on, just to mention one other thing about heart disease, is that there are 15 risk factors for heart disease that are modifiable by diet. And 13 of those 15 all improve on a very low carbohydrate diet, like we teach in metabolic coaching. One of them is variable. One of them can go up and is treated with like a multivitamin or folate. So I'll tell you that if I invented a pill, and if that pill could reduce 13 of the 15 risk factors for heart disease, I would be a multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
But you can't. But the solution is not a pill. The solution is changing what you eat, getting away from the refined carbohydrates, the grains, and the sugars, because those are what cause that. It's the refined carbohydrates, the grains, and the sugars that make those 13 of 15 risk factors for heart disease go up. So change those things.
It doesn't seem like it's brain surgery to follow it.
It's not brain surgery, but the hard part is changing people's behavior.
True. Well,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I set up the metabolic coaching program to where it's a 3-month program, Because if we do 3 months, then you get your feet wet, you get some experience. And I'll tell you how the whole program works. We start off the course with a 2-hour introductory session. And during those 2 hours, we go over how carbohydrates affect your blood sugar, what are the healthiest foods to eat, what are the foods to avoid to get your blood sugar normal, especially important for a type 2 diabetic. And then after that, we have weekly follow-ups. And the weekly follow-ups are like a group meeting. It's kind of like a support group, and we all go around and say, how is your weight this week? How is your blood sugars? Have you gotten off your medications? And that sort of thing. And then in addition to that, I send people with a audio CD that has some audio tracks on it, and these audio tracks, they work kind of like hypnosis. I call them subconscious reprogramming audio tracks. And what clients do is you listen to these audio tracks at night in bed while you're going to sleep. And that helps to reprogram your desires, what you want to eat. Because the hardest thing is the behavior modification. Because if your whole life, or for the last 30 years, you've been told to avoid fat, and that oatmeal is healthy for you, and eat cereal with skim milk for breakfast, all those things which blow your blood sugar out of the water.
That just blows me away.
Yeah. And so if you've been told that for 30 years, and then you decide, well, I'm going to cut those things out and see if I can get my blood sugar under control. Well, you can kind of willpower your way through a diet like that for a while, but you've got 30 years of programming in the back of your head. Mama gave me ice cream, and Mama loved me. Mama made sweet tea with a cup of sugar and a pitcher of tea, and she drank it, and that's normal.
And Mama loved me.
And Mama loved me, so all of that programming, listening to the audio tracks at night while you're going to sleep, helps to change that programming. And say, like, those were good beliefs for then, but it's okay to do something else now.
Doctor, you're talking to a 76-year-old man over here. So, yeah, that's the way I was raised. Exactly. So I have got to change the way I think and the way I do things. And it's willpower, isn't it?
Willpower won't work.
It won't?
I'm telling you, willpower doesn't work.
Okay.
I'm telling you, and the reason it doesn't work is that if you've ever heard the expression...
I've been doing it wrong then.
Well, everybody does it wrong.
Oh, so, okay, I don't feel so bad anymore.
It's not your fault. If you've ever heard the expression, we only use 2% of our brain, or we only use 10% of our brain.
Right.
Well, that 10% of our brain that we use on a daily basis, that's our conscious mind. And so you and I are sitting here talking, and we're consciously thinking about things. That's all conscious thought. But the other 90% of your brain that you supposedly don't use, it's all subconscious. And the subconscious all the subconscious does is run programs. I'll give you an example of a program that's run by the subconscious. If you can remember the first time you ever drove, the first time you ever tried to drive, it's complicated. You're kind of stepping on the gas, you're in and out, and then you hit the brake, and then you're turning the steering wheel, shifting gears if you're in a standard transmission. And doing the clutch. So driving a car is
you're talking to some people out there never heard of transmission or a clutch.
You guys never heard of a clutch out there?
Just kidding.
My first car was a standard. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, mine was too, but it's a long time before you thought of it. So.
But driving is a very complicated act for you to do consciously.
Right.
But what happens is over years you learn how to drive, and driving becomes so simple that women can drive while they put their makeup on in the mirror. And that may not be the recommended safest thing to do.
Nope.
But you may head off for work, and from your house, and you get to work, and you may sit there and just think, you don't exactly remember the trip. It was that automatic. So your subconscious. just runs the driving program.
Now I see where yes, okay.
And that's why it's so easy to drive. Well, what happens is those same programs in your subconscious, there's a eating program. And so it's breakfast time. What am I going to eat? Well, you think about 3 or 4 things, which are the same 3 or 4 things that you've had every morning for the last 10 years. Or another example of a subconscious program is, let's say your wife says, Well, where do you want to go to dinner? There's 3 restaurants that pop into your mind, and it's the same 3 all the time, and it's like your 3 favorites. And you know, you live in Lubbock
Have you
where
been
there's
reading my book?
you live in Lubbock where there's a million restaurants, right? And so that's all subconscious thought. And so when you think, well, what am I going to have for lunch? Well, sandwich. You know, I'm going to have a sandwich and chips and a diet soda, or I'm going to go somewhere and get a burger.
You don't give it any thought. It's just subconscious.
It's just that all comes from the subconscious, and those are the programs that we change. And I have people listen to those audio tracks at night for a minimum of 3 weeks, up to ideally 3 months, because 3 weeks to 3 months is how long it takes to really change your habits. And so
Can we take a break right now and come back and talk about those?
let's take it.
It's got me tweaked. I want to ask you questions. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back, everybody, with our good friend Dr. Justin Anderson right here at AM 580. Stay with us. Good morning. Welcome back, everybody, here on your Tuesday morning, the 8th day of the 8th month. Yes, it is. It is. Can you believe it, Doctor? We're already into the 8th month of the year. It's just unbelievable.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah,
I've been waiting for this year to get over.
Really?
No, I'm just teasing.
I was fixing. What's your hurry?
I just thought I'd be contrarian, because everybody says, well, it's going so fast. Can you believe it's August? So.
Well, you know, all kidding aside, I can remember my parents. Boy, the older I get, the faster it goes. And I just thought that was a trite saying, you know. How true it is. It seems to go faster, but it doesn't go a minute faster, does it? So what can I say? Hey, we were talking before the break, and I interrupted you. I didn't mean to interrupt you to take a break, but let's get back to that chain of thought that it's subconscious and sleeping, listening, or going to bed listening to that program.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that. That's got my curiosity stirred up.
Okay, well, when you're totally awake, like we are right now, you're in what's called alpha brainwave state. Alpha brainwave state is when your conscious mind is active, and you process things consciously. You process them consciously. When you're totally asleep, you're in deep, deep sleep, you're in what's called delta brainwave state. Well, at night, when you're going to bed, when you're going to sleep, you turn off your alpha brainwaves, which means you turn off your conscious mind, and you go through, before you get to delta, deep sleep, you go through what's called theta brainwave state. And in theta brainwave state, you're suggestible. So if you've ever, you ever seen like a stage hypnotist or whatever, and they count down from 10, they count backwards from 10 to 1 and all these sort of things. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get you into theta brainwave state, to make you jump around the stage on one foot and quack like a duck. Okay?
Right.
Well, you do that naturally at night when you're going to sleep. You turn off the conscious mind, you turn off your alpha brainwave state, and you go into theta. And so that's why you listen to these audio tracks at night, while you're in bed, while you're going to sleep. And I'll tell anyone who's interested in metabolic coaching, if you go to the website metaboliccoaching.net, that's my website. On metaboliccoaching.net, just click on the free content tab. And when you click on free content tab, you'll see written instructions. There's links to a video seminar. And there are the subconscious reprogramming audio tracks right there. And you can just listen to them on your phone. And so what a lot of people do is they'll put in their little earbuds at night and click on one of those things and listen to them at night. And you don't have to pay anything for that. That's free.
No,
it's just free content.
And you just listen to them, and it just puts you on into a good sleep.
Yeah. Yes. It helps you sleep.
And then what does that do then for your metabolism or wherever?
Well, the key is not the sleep. The key is what we say during the subconscious reprogramming audio tracks. So in those tracks, I count down from 10 to 1.
Right.
Put you into a relaxed mental state. You breathe, you relax, and then we start off with the fact that your body is perfect. Your body is perfect right now, just as you are. Your body's not damaged. That's not why you have type 2 diabetes. Your body's perfect. You just have to feed your body fuel that it understands. And your body doesn't understand all of the refined carbohydrates, the sugars, and the grains that we eat today. If you think about man, let's say in prehistoric man, even before there was farming, we didn't eat a lot of sugar, and we didn't eat a lot of bread, and we didn't eat a lot of carbohydrates because we didn't grow. We couldn't grow any of that stuff.
Yeah.
We would eat in season fruit in the fall. We would eat as much fruit as we could in the fall. We would gorge on it, and we would gorge on it because fruit is supposed to make you fat. Fruit makes you fat because what's coming up next is winter. Yeah, so you would eat, prehistoric man would eat very little carbohydrates except in the fall when fruit was in season. And what happened is about 10,000 years ago, there's the agricultural revolution. And during the agricultural revolution, we started eating significantly more carbohydrates because we started growing all the cereal grain crops, like rice and oats and wheat and all that sort of stuff. So our carbohydrate consumption increased significantly 10,000 years ago. But what's happened in the last 200 years, and especially in the last 100 years, is that it's gotten to the point to where the average American eats 150 pounds of flour and 150 pounds of sugar every single year.
Whoa.
So that's 300 pounds of refined carbohydrates that your body turns into sugar. 300 pounds of refined carbohydrates every year, and your body just doesn't know what to do with that, because
never looked at it never explained like that.
Your body was not made to handle that much carbohydrates, and so doing this diet, a very low carbohydrate diet, is just getting back to what your body was made to eat, which is cut out the refined carbohydrates, the grains, and the sugars. And so that's the subconscious reprogramming audio tracks. They start there with the fact that your body is perfect, and then we go over some beliefs that you can let go. One of the interesting things is that some people actually do things that are self-destructive.
Yes, sir.
There was one client that I've had. This client had type 2 diabetes. Her blood sugars were 300. She had worked in healthcare for 30 years. So she knows, basically that you shouldn't eat sugar and too much carbs. I mean, she kind of, she had that idea. But this client would eat in the morning for breakfast an August pie from the gas station. And August pie is like that fried pie.
Yes,
it's full of sugar. It's full of fruit. It's breaded on the outside. And so it just blows your blood sugar out of the water. And so if you have type 2 diabetes and you're feeling horrible and your sugars are really high, but you do something like eat foods that you really shouldn't, like an August pie, that's actually a self-destructive type of behavior. And so one of the things that's in the audio tracks says, if there's anything, if you have any self-destructive behaviors or anything, you can let them go. You don't have to, the audio tracks don't tell you to identify them. You don't have to think about them. You don't have to know what they are. You can just let them go. You can let go they're in your subconscious, so you don't have to go in there and dig them out consciously. You just let them go. Or like I gave the example of the sweet tea, I know one lady who she would put a cup of sugar in a pitcher of tea and literally drink a cup of sugar every single day. And why does she do that? She does it that way because that's the way her mama did it. And her mama isn't here anymore. Yep. And it reminds her of her mama, and she loves her mama and misses her. And
absolutely.
And it's okay to, one of the things that's in the audio tracks might say, that belief was an okay belief, to have for then. That was an okay thing to do then. But now it's okay to let it go. Right. You can let it go. And so, and the other thing is this. So when I do the metabolic coaching course, I go through and I list the effects of refined carbohydrates, grains, and sugars on people's health, because I'll have a group of clients and they'll have diabetes or high triglycerides, high blood pressure. They'll be overweight or obese, all of these sort of medical things. And so I'll go through and explain to them how cutting out the carbohydrates can reverse these things. It can improve their blood pressure, improve their weight, help them lose weight, lower their blood sugar, improve their diabetes, improve their inflammation and their pain. We'll get that shoulder feeling better. They can improve all of those things. And then I go through and I ask them, if I had a vial and I said, in this vial, there's a chemical, and if you drink what's in this vial, it'll give you type 2 diabetes with high blood pressure, lots of inflammation, lots of pain. It'll make you overweight and obese and give you low energy. What would you call what's in the vial? I mean, what would you call it?
Well, I'm trying to think.
Okay, I got this vial, and if you drink it, it's going to make you a type 2 diabetic, give you high blood pressure.
Right.
It's going to give you pain and inflammation. It's going to make you overweight, obese, and give you high triglycerides, lower your HDL, good cholesterol, and cause all these physical problems. What would you call what's in the vial?
Instant death, sounds like.
Yeah, it's like a poison or a toxin.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that's in the audio tracks is to kind of get that through people's heads. But the truth is this is the interesting thing. There are some people out there who can tolerate carbohydrates and sugar without gaining weight. So they can eat all the sugar they want, all the bread they want, all the pasta they want. They can eat all of those things and they don't gain weight. They don't become a type 2 diabetic, and they don't get high blood pressure. They're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are carbohydrate tolerant. But for the other 2/3 of Americans who are overweight or obese, and for the percentage that has diabetes, for those people who suffer these medical conditions from the carbohydrates, then the refined carbohydrates and sugars, they are like a poison to you, because to you they give you those medical problems, even though that doesn't mean that they're a poison for everybody.
Sure.
It's just like being allergic to strawberries, right? So I mean, there's some people can eat all the strawberries they want, no problem. Other people, if they eat strawberries, it's going to make them break out in hives. Yeah, they'll get hives and their throat can close up. So you avoid strawberries like the plague if you're allergic to plague. I mean, if you're allergic to strawberries.
We're allergic to plague.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so it's the same thing. If your body can't tolerate carbohydrates, then you avoid them like the plague. And that's what's in the audio tracks.
I'll be there. And you teach us in your class, when they come to talk to you, this is one of the things that they would talk to them about, getting on that.
Right, because the metabolic coaching program, it's a whole 3-month program. Okay. And it is the 2-hour introduction. And then I introduce them to the audio tracks and tell them to start listening to the audio tracks. And then we follow up with people. So it all rolls into one. It's all one. And then we follow up with people every week, live follow-ups. People and clients can text me or email me whatever their questions are as questions come up, and I get back to them usually within 48 hours. So I try to provide them with as much support as possible to help them make the change. And if they can get some clients, they'll stay subscribed for the program's 3 months, so it's like 3-month minimum. But some people say stay subscribed for 6 months or a year because they like to keep following up. They like the support group. And, this last week, I'll pull up a picture.
I bet you do have a good support group, don't you? They like to follow each other, get together.
They're just the most wonderful people. My favorite time of the week is teaching the course and then doing the follow-up group, Let's see, the last follow-up meeting we had, we do them on Fridays from 3:30 to 4:30. But on the last follow-up, the reports were lost 68 pounds, lost 30 pounds. One client had lost inches but not pounds, lost 7 pounds in 8 weeks. And I will tell you that for men, on average, can lose 2 to 4 pounds per week. Okay?
Really?
For women...
Easier for men?
Easier for men. Definitely easier for men. For women, like postmenopausal women, it's 1 or 2 pounds per week. So losing 7 pounds in 8 weeks, you may think, well, that doesn't sound that great. But that's just like normal, average, healthy weight loss. It's about a pound a week.
So
it's a little on the low end.
Lose it all at one time in a hurry. You're losing it the way it should be.
Another client, this guy lost 10 pounds in a week because he just started the program. So what happens is people will come in, they have all this inflammation, and inflammation in the body causes you to swell up with water. Also, they have high blood pressure, and eating carbohydrates stimulates the body to make insulin. Insulin causes your body to hold on to salt water. And just like if you pump a tire full of more and more air,
Right.
that increases the air pressure. Well, your blood vessels your blood is fluid. And if you pump your blood vessels full of more and more fluid, which is salt water, that's what gives you high blood pressure. And so this guy had lost 10 pounds in 1 week, his first week on the program. And that's because he dumped all that extra fluid that was giving him high blood pressure and swelling and inflammation and bloating. Another client, her blood sugars had gone down from 125 to 94. So that's from diabetic range blood sugars to normal, 94. And she had lost 16 pounds in about 4 weeks. Another client lost 2 pounds in a week, and that's for a grand total of 39 pounds over the course of the program. I mean, it's easy to focus on weight because weight you can measure.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Blood sugars you can measure. I had another client, and her blood sugars had been running in the 250s. She just started the program. Now she's 150s. Man. So, she's stepping down 250s to 150s. Then she'll go to 130s. Then she'll go down to 110s. Another client who'd been there for a year had lost 45 pounds in a year. And most people are going to gain 5 pounds a year, right? Another client lost 21 pounds. One lost 2.5 pounds for a total of 12, and another one had lost 42 pounds total. And she was off her blood pressure meds and off of her pain medications. So, also during the follow-ups, we kind of go through that. I ask people how they're doing. And if people are stuck, if somebody's stuck and hasn't lost weight in a while, then we try and figure it out.
They're stuck for a reason.
They're stuck for a reason. That's right. It's either they're eating more carbohydrates than they think, so they need to count the carbohydrates, or it may be a medication. There are lots of medications that cause weight gain. I was just looking at an article here. Proton pump inhibitors, which are the things they give you for acid reflux. They cause weight gain.
Yeah.
And so, proton pump inhibitors, blood pressure medications like beta blockers, SSRIs, which are antidepressants, they all cause weight gain.
I do believe we have a phone call.
All right.
Go out to phones. Good morning, caller. Hello. Are you there, caller? Hello.
Lost the connection on the way to post.
Well, they're still there, just don't want to talk. Hello, caller. Hello, caller.
But I'll tell you
Caller,
that,
are you there?
Hello, yes.
Okay, we've got you now.
Okay, well, I had a quick question, and I'm
Yes,
calling
sir.
actually on behalf of my wife. She's a type 2 diabetic, has been for years. At one point, she was on like 145 units of insulin a day, and we've been doing low carb for about 6-7 months. And she's off insulin now. She went to metformin for a while. And
Congratulations, man.
But anyway, she's now taking berberine, I think is the name of it, and maybe like Victoza. She's still on some of that. But my question is ultra low carb, have been for months and months and months. Her blood sugar is running typically around 180, 160, 180. Sometimes it'll get up in that 200 range, and that's on the 20, 30 carbs a day.
Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that still okay for her to be running that high if she's still eating ultra low carb, and should we think about maybe some other form of medication?
A good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. The short answer is no. It's not okay to be running that high, because at blood sugars, what did you say, 150, 180?
180, 200, depending.
At blood sugars of kind of 180 to 200, she's going to develop the complications of diabetes, whether it's heart disease, diabetic neuropathy, where the feet lose their feeling and you can get damage, or burning and tingling in the feet, or even diabetic retinopathy, eye problems. So
she's already had that. She's got implants already.
Well, I'll tell you that, number one, she's on the right track. It doesn't mean she's not on the right track. She's on the right track but what happens is if someone has had diabetes for a long time, like you said, she's had it for years and years, then at that point you can get to where the pancreas does burn out. The pancreas has been overworked, working too hard for too many years. I recommend you pick up this book, and it's available in audio or in text form. It's called Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution.
Okay.
Because Dr. Bernstein, he's a type, the way Dr. Bernstein got into this, he's a type 1 diabetic. And as a type 1 diabetic, he's an engineer by training, and he learned, well, if I avoid carbohydrates, then it's a lot easier to dose my insulin. I don't need to take as much insulin, and I can get dead normal blood sugars all the time. And he wanted to publish a paper about it, and nobody would accept the paper. So when he was 40 years old, he went back to medical school.
Right.
And then go ahead.
Well, I was going to say is my question is, she's only been like this for just a couple of months. See, she gradually worked down from 145 units of insulin a day to 100 units and 80 units. And at some point when she was on an insulin pump, at some point she got rid of the pump. See? And so it hasn't been running like that, but just a couple of months. I'm asking, is it okay for a few months till she tries to get that worked all the way down, or should she do something now? I guess is my question. We have read the book, Dr. Jason Fung, Obesity Code. We have read that book, and Wheat Belly read that book. We've read several books, but I haven't read the book you just talked about, and I will get it. But is it okay for her blood sugars to be like that just for a few months while she's still trying to get completely, down to the 150 range or so?
In the short term, having high blood sugars like 180 to 200 would be fine. In the long term, not. Now, the thing that Dr. Bernstein says normal blood sugar, and her goal blood sugar, even though she's diabetic, should be 83.
Okay.
So her goal should be 83, and so I would say that each month, her blood sugar should be lower and lower and lower, working your way down to that number.
It is. It's coming down. Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
Of course, while she was on insulin, she'd keep it down. Of course, we know why, because you're on insulin. But as soon as she gave up the insulin pump, that's when it went up to, around 200. It is gradually coming down. I'm just kind of concerned about the 200, 180 to 200 for an extended period of time. I mean, it is gradually working its way down for sure.
If the sugar's coming down, 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 then you're on the right path. But one thing that Dr. Bernstein would say, and that he points out in the book, is that insulin itself, small doses of insulin to cover a very low carbohydrate diet. I'll go ahead and finish on the air.
Yeah.
The small doses of insulin required to cover the blood sugars of a very low carbohydrate diet are not toxic. Small doses of insulin, if they're required, they actually help to save what pancreas function that she has left. So it's a wonderful book. And what he would usually put people on is a long-acting insulin, a 24-hour insulin. I think he uses Dedamir insulin. He would put them on that, and that would help control their blood sugar over 24 hours. And since the person still has some function in their pancreas will cover any spikes that occur from the very low carbohydrate diet. So I strongly advise you to get that book and continue to work those sugars down.
He's already hung up on us, so hopefully he'll get that book and read it. He said he was going to. Sounds like he keeps up with what his wife's been going through.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, I mean, he's walking through this with her step by step, and that is good.
And the fabulous thing that you just heard from that phone call was that she went from taking 145 units of insulin, and that's a lot of insulin. That's a lot of insulin, 145 units of insulin a day, to where now her blood sugars aren't normal. They're not totally controlled.
Sure.
But she's just on Victoza and metformin, so her doctor's working with her to work on the correct medications to where she doesn't have to inject mega doses of insulin every day. And one thing that really big doses of insulin can cause really big swings in blood sugar. So you can have more low blood sugar, and low blood sugar is dangerous. Really small doses of insulin needed to cover very small amounts of carbohydrates. It's a lot easier to prevent low blood sugar. So I think she's on the right path.
There, isn't there? Such a balancing act.
It's a balancing act, and you'd rather be balancing 2 pounds on either side of the scale than balance, like 2 units of insulin a day, than trying to balance 145 units of insulin, because that's when you get hurt.
Well, like I took from that phone call, and I mean this, bless his heart, he's right there with her.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the numbers down. He knows what she's doing, what she's taking. I mean, that's a blessing in disguise right there. It really is.
I will tell you that people who come to the metabolic coaching program, a lot of them come on their own, and they don't do it with their spouse, and they can do it. But I have seen it's very powerful when a husband and wife come together.
You bet.
Because when they come together, the two of them can accomplish more together than either of them could on their own. And so a lot of times we'll get couples, and I love it when I see couples, because one person's usually the head shopper. One's the head shopper, the head cook, and the other's the head eater. And so you got to get those two people on the same page.
Have you met my wife? Have you been talking to my wife? This just the last 5 minutes of this show has really hit home. I mean, Doctor, it really, really has. Going as a couple. I have some health problems. But thanks to the good Lord, I'm still here and working and loving every day of it. But I have some problems. 9 times out of 10, she goes to the doctor with me when I have a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
She wants to know what's going on, so she can be a part of it.
Yeah.
And you, like you said, that's just it's a warm, fuzzy feeling, I think. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'll give some general medical advice for anybody out there, is that if you're in the hospital, if you're at the doctor, if you're in the emergency room, you always need somebody there with you.
Amen.
To be your advocate.
Amen.
Because the doctors and the nurses, they're going to work as hard as they can to help you, but they're busy, they're overworked, they have a lot more patients,
You got that
and
right.
so somebody needs. If I have a family member in the hospital, then we like to have another family member there 24 hours a day, if possible, to try and be their personal advocate, because you only have one family member in the hospital, you don't have 12 other patients to see. Well,
and when you go home, you got to remember a lot what was told, and been under anesthetic, whatever. To me, though, it just, I see couples go all the time, and like I say, 9 times out of 10, my bride is with me when we go, and we'll get home, and I'll guarantee you, she can tell me something the doctor said that I didn't hear.
Yep, she tells you everything he said.
Pretty much.
But there's something about, sometimes I'm a patient.
Sure.
And sometimes I'm the doctor, but I'm sitting in the patient's chair because I'm going to the doctor. And when that happens, when you become the patient, I mean, there's a lot of things going on in your mind.
Yeah.
And so to have somebody there who's like an objective third party will help you remember all those things.
Well, that's absolutely right. I'll tell you, I've enjoyed this. It's my first opportunity to sit in with you, and it's been a lot of fun, and a lot of things I can see. I wish we had a little more time to talk now, because I'm kind of getting into it. But it's been a pleasure hosting the show with you today, Doctor. And
yeah, same here, Jim.
Hopefully I know that hopefully it was good news for that gentleman calling in, because he had a very interesting question and it was down to earth.
Yeah, and those basically one of the things with the program is that my job is to answer those questions for you. And for that gentleman or anyone else, you can find recordings of this program. I post them all on the YouTube channel. Okay. It's called Cut the Killer Carbs on YouTube. There's a seminar, I think it's 3-hour-long seminar called Reversing My Diabetes. It's on YouTube, the Cut the Killer Carbs channel. And so you can find information there as well.
Fantastic. Tell them how to get a hold of him, where you're located right quick.
The website is metaboliccoaching.net. Metaboliccoaching.net, and the phone number is 448-0322. 448-0322. Give me a call, and we'll see if we can get you on the program and start reversing your diabetes as well.
Doctor, appreciate it very much, buddy, and enjoyed it so much, and we hope you have a blessed day.
My pleasure. Have a great one.
Thank you, buddy. Take a break.